whether there are men out there that abuse these women.
They
If
said
we
they.
learn about information and evidence that allows us to
If
prosecute
somebody, if
them,
your
you better
daughter
believe we
said that
will.
they
But I don't think that
abused
the
her, would you
public or
believe
you
them?
all are going
Would
to
you
uncover
start an investigation?
men within the Epstein files that abuse women, unfortunately.
Okay, and just to follow up on the investigation into federal chairman Jerome Powell, is the Justice Department, what's the status of that investigation now that President Trump has nominated a new Fed chair? Is the Justice Department looking to bring a close to the investigation into Chairman Powell as soon as possible?
I don't have a comment on that, on the subpoenas that were issued. I don't think the timing of President Trump's decision to nominate somebody is
playing down. He don't want to have to even deliver this
factor in any investigation.
I just wanted to follow up on.
He don't even want to have to be
so you're
standing up there delivering this message.
Alex Preddy is now a civil rights investigation. You're implying that that's always been the case. Can you also say if has that? What about the shooting of Renee Good? I mean, why not is that a civil rights investigation?
I didn't say it was always the case. I said it's the same thing that we said as of last Sunday, as with respect to last weekend. There are thousands, unfortunately, of law enforcement events every year where somebody is shot. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice does not investigate every one of those shootings. There has to be circumstances or facts, or maybe unknown facts, but certainly circumstances that warrant an investigation. So when I talked about last weekend, and when others have talked about this week, the fact that President Trump has said repeatedly, of course, this is something we're going to investigate. That's what I meant about what we're doing. It doesn't mean that every time that there's a federal officer related shooting, that's something civil rights takes up. It depends on the circumstances.
Follow up on that. Can you just, I know you can't be specific about details of the investigation, but can you kind of just characterize the scope of the Preddy investigation, what kinds of things that they'll be looking for and who's involved?
What can signs do for
they're
your
still
business?
trying to play in our face,
Signs
ain't they?
inform. They communicate in.
What kinds of things that they'll be looking for and who's involved?
Well, I mean, it's an investigation. So what do we think we're looking at? We're looking at everything.
Oh, so now you want to get smart
on what happened that day and in the days and weeks.
Now you want to be smart talking.
That's like any investigation that the Department of Justice and the FBI does every day. It means we're looking at videos, talking to witnesses, trying to understand what happened. I mean, you're talking about an incredibly tragic morning, and then trying to unwind and investigate that it takes a lot of time. I'm not going to prejudice what they're doing or not doing by laying any markers, but I expect that the folks that are doing this are the most experienced in this space and are doing that.
Yeah, so to follow up on that, how would a civil rights investigation work with DHS taking the lead, which is what was said over the weekend? And are prosecutors
And they're the ones who sent
involved in this? We know that
the
there's a lot of
KKK.
frustration within the department, both in Minnesota and the Civil Rights Division, that they feel they are not being brought in and they are the experts here. So just to follow up, how would this work with DHS taking the lead, and who is from DOJ involved in this investigation?
I don't think that. Look, I think anytime every single federal agency, including DHS, has a process that they use when there's something like this that happens, an internal review, investigation, however you want to call it. That's what DHS was doing, as they do every single time something like this happened. There was nothing unique to these facts. There might have been outsized focus on it because of what happened, but DHS was doing an investigation. I don't know that will stop. I don't expect that investigation to stop because we're investigating, and of course we're coordinating with them. We're not working against them, but there's I suppose potentially separate goals or potential goals in the two investigations. I mean, DHS is conducting an investigation, and then the FBI conducts an investigation. It's not as if one goes one way and one goes the other, but they are their own investigations.
Very clearly said on Sunday that HSI is leading the investigation. He did not want to overstep and say anything. Was that not true anymore, or was that true at the time?
I don't think it's fair to say whether it's true anymore, okay? And I don't think it's also, I don't want to say who's lead or not lead. I don't even really know what that means in the course of an investigation. There's the FBI is investigating. They are for sure coordinating with Secretary Noem and her folks as well. And I expect DHS is also continuing their investigation to some extent. And there's outside folks on this. This happens, like I said, thousands of times a year. And it is tragic every single time it happens. And it's tragic this time like it's tragic every other time. And so there's a process that has to be allowed to play out internally with these law enforcement organizations and certainly with the FBI as well to allow this investigation to go on.
You've talked about the expectations surrounding the Epstein files. Do you agree that the DOJ itself, senior officials at the DOJ, played up those expectations for the first half of this year? I'm just sort of trying to understand what responsibility does the Justice Department have?
They don't want to have
the
none.
criticism that has come over the handling of the Epstein files.
I'm not commenting on criticism. People can criticize all they want. My point was just to make plain that when it comes to what we've been doing the past 2 months and why we weren't able to complete the review of over 6 million pages. Okay, so you're talking about 2 Eiffel Towers, okay, of pages in 30 days in a way that made sure we complied with the act, right? So the act had multiple requirements. Get it done in 30 days. And you better not release any victim information. All right, so there's a lot of statutory construction. There's a lot of case law that exists. That says that
but you
if
redacted
those two are in
the
conflict,
predators
we
as
obviously are
well.
not violating the 30-day requirement by taking our time to comply with the act. And so my comments were directed at this idea that because we didn't review the 6+ million pages within 30 days, somehow the Attorney General doesn't care about victims or is further doing damage to victims because of that, because exactly the opposite is true when it comes to the Attorney General.
Sir, I have questions on Epstein and Minnesota. First on Minnesota. For transparency, would you commit to releasing the body cam video from federal officers that was involved in that shooting and their names at a point when the investigation can allow that? Will you make that public? And I did not hear clarity on whether Renee Good's case is also in the civil rights realm.
I'm not committing to anything with respect to that investigation. That would be completely unfair to the investigation itself for me to stand here and commit to something for any reason. It depends. It depends on what happens with the investigation, and that's a decision that was made by the folks that are working the investigation. As it relates to Ms. Good, I don't, like I said before, there's investigations that happen all the time with respect to shootings like what happened last Saturday, and cases are handled differently by this department depending on the circumstances.
On Epstein, sir, if I may just ask one on that, please. You mentioned a letter to Congress. How and to whom did you notify the White House about the production that you're announcing today before you came out and spoke to us?
How did I do what?
By the White House.
Y'all please help me reach my goal. I'm almost 4 hours in.
Can you even see me right now? I don't think it's your screen. It's your vision.
Yeah, no, y'all just sitting here not hitting the like button, not supporting the platform, not helping me reach my goals, nothing. God dang.
Well, I don't know. I don't really understand the question. You mean who did I update?
Yeah, did you provide them an explanation of what today's release would be?
Look, my team.
Hit the like button. I'm so sick of y'all sitting over here ear hustling. I don't care how many in here right now. It's such disrespect. If you don't like it, you don't have to be here. These countries just banned the U.S. travel. So 20 countries are banning us. And this is crazy. We liabilities. Travel and leisure. Because of Donald Trump restricting and limiting the entry of foreign nationals to protect purity of the United States. Now, are we? No. Hell no. Get this man up off of. Oh, this is from Donald Trump. Hold on. Let me get up out of here. Oh, so how are we pure? And we are messing with our own kids and loved ones. Man, let me get up out of here. Y'all hit the like button. Now, in the Melania movie, is she talking about how she used to be a
claims that
hooker?
Mar-a-Lago was host to.
Hold on.
A new batch of files from the Epstein investigation has been released, and they contain some serious accusations against the president. A complaint submitted to the FBI by an alleged victim claims that Mar-a-Lago was host to auctions of underage victims.
Auctions.
The anonymous filing claims that
Y'all hit the like button.
a new batch of files from the Epstein investigation has been released, and they contain some serious accusations against the president. A complaint submitted to the FBI by an alleged victim claims that Mar-a-Lago was host to auctions of underage victims. The anonymous filing claims that Trump himself would touch the victims' private parts. They claim that Trump assaulted them when they were just 13, and that Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka Trump, as well as Elon Musk and Ghislaine
Ivanka, I told y'all she was in there.
We told you that Donald Trump's dark past would surface. We told you.
A new batch of files from the Epstein investigation has been released, and they contain some serious accusations against the president. A complaint submitted to the FBI by an alleged victim claims that Mar-a-Lago was host to auctions of underage victims.
Auctions.
The anonymous filing
Lock it
claims
up.
that Trump himself would touch the victims' private parts. They claim that Trump assaulted them when they were just 13, and that Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka Trump, as well as Elon Musk and Ghislaine Maxwell, were present at these events. A new batch of files from the Epstein investigation has been released, and they contain some serious accusations against the president.
Now, y'all remember
A
what we
complaint
listened to
submitted
last
the
night,
FBI
right?
By an alleged victim claims that Mar-a-Lago was.
Y'all remember what we listened to last night? It says you are currently offline.
We told you that Donald Trump's dark past would surface. We told you.
Y'all remember what we listened to last night about Ivanka? And he told her she implemented and that she better turn that disc over. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, midterms. Hey, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm always over here. Thank you, Cookie Monster. Yeah. Ivanka. Y'all, this is some crazy, wild shit, man. Whole family. A whole family affair. Oh, now, yeah. Of course, right now it's going to say, of course it's going to say I'm offline. Of course my internet messes up. Of course it's not going as far as it normally goes. Of course, here lately, have y'all noticed I've been having internet issues? I mean, people not getting notifications, all of that. Have y'all not noticed that? How do I not have internet? Timing and patterns. Baby, what we was just listening to, they didn't know. No, Auntie Fee, please. No. Okay. Let me restart. Let me reboot. Let me get on back over here. Lord. As much tea as I bring back to back together and roll it all up in there. I don't know why I be having to tell y'all to hit the like button.
We've all accepted that
y'all better
everything we
be
do online
glad.
is tracked. Every search, every click,
They
every
watching me?
purchase is recorded somewhere. Most people.
For transparency, would you commit to releasing the body cam video from federal officers that was involved in that shooting and
Hell
their names
no.
at a point when the investigation
Color
that was
purple,
made
hell
that
no.
public.
Hell
And I did not hear clarity
no.
on whether Renee Good's case is also in the civil rights realm.
I'm not committing to anything with respect to that investigation that would be completely unfair to the investigation.
Yeah, I remember I
itself
told you
for
about
me to stand
DNS
here and,
not
commit to something for any
recognizing,
reason.
not
It
connecting.
depends. It depends on what happens with the investigation, and that's a decision that was made by the folks that are working the
I have a little
investigation.
channel. I don't have a
As
big
it
old
relates to
channel.
Ms. Good, I don't. But like I said before, there's investigations that happen all the time with respect to shootings like what happened last Saturday, and cases are handled differently by this department depending on the circumstances.
On Epstein, sir, if I may just ask one on that, please. You mentioned a letter to Congress. How and to whom did you notify the White House about the production that you're announcing today before you came out and spoke to us?
How did I do what?
By the White House. What was your interface with the White House? You said there's a letter to Congress. Who did you update at the White House about this?
Well, I don't know. I don't really understand the question. mean,
You
who did
do
I update
understand.
on the
Did you provide them an explanation of what today's release would be?
Look, my team has certain communications with the White House. Let me just be clear. They had nothing to do with this review. They had no oversight over this review. They did not tell this department how to do our review, what to look for, what to redact, what to not redact. They absolutely knew that I was doing this press conference today and that we were releasing the materials today. But there's no oversight by the White House into the process that we've undertaken over the past 60 days.
I wanted to ask a question about the evidence in the Alex Preddy investigation. Early on, our reporting showed that the only type of evidence that the FBI initially had in its possession that it was processing for ballistics and DNA, et cetera, was Preddy's firearm. It did not have the two firearms that were used to shoot Preddy. Those were in the hands of HSI, and also there were concerns about chain of custody, things not being properly bagged and tagged, et cetera. Where are the guns now? Are they in the FBI's possession and being reviewed at one of their labs? And who has the phone that Preddy was using and filming? And is that going to be reviewed by the FBI?
I don't know. I don't have an answer to those questions. Look,
I know
think
you
that
don't.
I told you that Donald
Secretary Noem is
Hold on.
Trump's dark past would surface. We told you he could run, but he could not hide. Now, new
Since they didn't want me to
Epstein
play it. Oh,
documents
thank you,
are
Denise, for the
surfacing
flowers.
on Monday night. They're very, very, very concerning. I want to share them with you, and I want to share with you the sequence of what went down yesterday. So earlier in the day, Democratic Congress member
Delete what?
Rosana stated that he had heard that the DOJ
What? Deleted what? Let me finish this off. This is almost finished. This is almost finished because I feel like I'm gonna need to. I'm gonna have to. Lord, I'm gonna have to order me something to eat. Somebody want to cash out me so I can eat and not have to stop.
been clear with the American
Is
people,
my
but
cash
also with
app
the Department of
pinned
Justice
to the
that
top?
We're doing this together. We're coordinating.
I thank you for the Sunday.
I'm not-
Ooh, I
am
reached the
not
goal for that
following
hour.
in the weeds
I
about
wish-
who actually has possession
I
of
wish
the
I
firearms
could
that were
use
discharged.
it for lunch.
And the FBI would need in order to conduct a thorough investigation into a color of, this is obviously a color.
Thank you,
When I
thank
said I
you,
didn't
thank
know, I
you for
wasn't
the Sunday. Alex
being critical of
phone.
the question. I was just
Oh
simply saying
yeah.
no.
On the
Thank you,
Fulton County,
Spec.
seizure of ballots, local officials there, election officials say those materials were set to become public by February 9th, and that the Justice Department could have simply asked for them.
Randomly,
Why was it necessary to conduct
Amaze,
a
hello.
search warrant? And do you expect the affidavit in that search warrant matter to become public anytime soon, or do you have any comment or explanation as to why that was necessary?
Listen, I'm not going to comment on. It's the criminal investigation. I'm not.
Into
will not
who?
comment on it. I will say that it should be no surprise
wasn't
to many in
Congress,
this room
the
that-
Senate asked
or
them
anybody
why they
watching
didn't know that they was being
election integrity is
investigated?
extraordinarily important to this
Yeah,
administration. always
why
has
we
been,
can't know
and
who
always
you
will be.
investigating?
And so the fact that President Trump and this administration are investigating to make sure that
Now they're
are
investigating.
investigating issues around
themselves.
elections to make sure that we do have
So that
completely
means
fair
that
and
they're gonna
appropriate
lie.
elections should not be surprising, but I can't comment on any criminal investigations. Yeah.
To follow up on that, regarding Fulton County, can you explain Tulsi Gabbard's role in
Can you just speak
DOJ
up a little bit,
activity?
please?
Could you please explain Tulsi Gabbard's role in DOJ activity regarding the Fulton County search?
What do you mean her role?
The media is covering the Social Security riots, but it's all a distraction for what's really going
Y'all,
on.
I'm gonna have to eat. I'm
DOJ
hungry.
activity regarding the Fulton County search?
What do you mean her role?
It was reported that.
Okay,
She happened to be present in Atlanta. I mean, yes, I saw the same photos you did. I mean, she doesn't work for the Department of Justice or the FBI. She's an extraordinarily important part of this administration. This administration coordinates everything we do as a group. And so I think her presence shouldn't be, there shouldn't be questioned. Of course, I mean, that's a big part of her job. And so
Oh, it's
the
not
fact that
letting
she
me do
was
another
present
10.
in
Hold
Atlanta
on.
that day, you know, is something that shouldn't surprise anybody.
Chairman Maxwell?
All right, just two more. Go ahead.
Just following up on that, so are you saying that Gabbard's appearance in that area had nothing to do with Justice Department action, that
I most certainly did not say that. No, I did not say that. I said that exactly the opposite. I said this administration works closely together in all kinds of different areas, and so I'm not sure if they're surprised at that the administration is working together on things like election integrity. But if there is surprise, let me unequivocally state we are working together as an administration on election integrity type issues, and so that's all I can say about that. All right, one more.
Can you clarify who at the Justice Department is involved in the Preddy investigation? Is it the Civil Rights Division? Is it the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota?
So I want to be careful about, I want to choose words carefully about involved. Investigations like this are led by law enforcement, so that's the FBI. There's coordination with.
Are they already
with the
deleting
civil rights,
documents
with
in the
Harvey
Epstein?
Dillon's group, and there's trial attorneys there that have, this is their lives.
On the
They've
U.S.
done this for
Department of
decades, and
Justice
so
page
to the
not
extent
found.
There's questions during an investigation that require a trial attorney to weigh in, or if you need a civil rights attorney to draft a search warrant or help with an investigative process, I expect the Civil Rights Division here at Maine Justice will be part of that effort. But I don't want to overstate what's happening. I don't want the takeaway to be that there's some massive civil rights investigation that's happening. This is what I would describe as a standard investigation by the FBI when there's circumstances like what we saw last Saturday, and that investigation, to the extent it needs to involve lawyers at the Civil Rights Division, it will involve those. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate it.
Merit the same kind of investigation.
Do you have comment on the career prosecutors that are resigning in Minneapolis?